You're tuning into an episode of the Audio Signals podcast hosted by Marco Ciappelli. In this new season, Audio Signals is repositioning its antennas, focusing not just on the stories, but on the storytellers. In our modern hybrid analog-digital society, the art of storytelling has never been more vital or displayed such a diverse array of forms. Recognizing this, our conversations will spotlight the narrators, providing a unique exploration into the minds behind the narratives. From authors to podcasters, visual artists to songwriters, and everything in between, we will engage with all who contribute to this extraordinary form of art. Let's all pay attention now, as this story is about to begin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Audio Signals podcast, where we talk about stories and storytellers. And as you know, I don't just talk about books and writing. Everything is a story. I don't know, maybe because my career has been in advertising. So I look at everything as a story. And I'm so excited about this conversation because it's a little bit unusual. As a matter of fact, my guest, if you're looking and watching the video, Dave Tourjé is here. And if you are listening, you're going to listen from him very soon. He has done so many things that we were just already talking about having a second episode. So we had to nail down, and we haven't even started. We're already like, we're out of time, you know.
We're signed for six episodes already.
Just don't trust. It's the first time actually we get to meet virtually, but I've heard about his job and what he's done here in California and all the art, and that now is in museum. He went from and street art to go in the museum. As a matter of fact, we've touched on the concept of low and high art as well. So here it is, Dave. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marco. I really appreciate being here and appreciate your introduction in terms of stories. I didn't totally know that, and I like that.
Good. This is going to be a story on its own. As a matter of fact, we have no scripted Q&A, question, answer, nothing. We're just going to roll with it, and I think we're going to have a good time. So I like to start with who is Dave? And usually I get like, oh my God, I don't know, I'm still figuring out, or where do I start? Like when I was born? No, you decide. How do you feel now? Who is Dave now?
Oh, man. Dave now is a lucky survivor of the 80s.
Okay.
And Los Angeles 80s. You know, I was always a visual artist since I was very small. That was my main focus. But I always felt an attachment to music. My father was not a musician, but he really liked music. So he had record albums that I still have, actually, like Chuck Berry, the Beatles, the Beach Boys. So I was born in 1960. So I've been listening to stuff. My mother's from Mexico City, so she would bring in the Mexican artists that she loved. So, you know, and then in between there was, I remember, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Okay, so they were kind of an Americanized version. But, you know, this was playing every morning. So really, I wanted to play music. I begged them for a guitar when I was 5 years old because of the Beatles. And they bought me a plastic acoustic guitar, you know, cheap for Christmas. And I broke the neck on it. That was the end. And they didn't have the money to put me into the music programs. I remember being about maybe 8 years old, and my friends were getting into the music program, and they were playing horns and saxophones and recorder, whatever they were playing. And I couldn't do it. They didn't have the money. So glossed through. And then in junior high school, you know, I met all these friends who were really, by then, great musicians already when they were very young. So I thought, oh, I missed it. But at the end of high school, I just said, to hell with this, man. I'm just going to learn to play. I wanted to play guitar. So I got back onto the guitar. I had guitar player friends who played the blues, and I wanted to play blues and rock. So I had friends that were just like, yeah, I'll teach you. I said, I want to play like Johnny Winter. And my friend said, good, yeah, bring over a 12 pack. I'll show you how to do that. But anyway, the point is to your question. So, all these years I've been able to assemble how to do different things, build things, paint. I worked very hard and still do, as a painter. And I mean like paintings, like that. Okay.
Nice.
And a lot of art shows and a lot of shows, with the furniture I would make. And, then there was the music and the punk rock scene in LA. I was slotted well for the timing of these things, like 1979 punk rock LA. I mean, I was 19, perfect, Skateboarding, I got my first skateboard when I was 1967. And by the time urethane wheels hit, I was in good shape. I knew how to do it. And I could translate that into swimming pools and stuff. Mm-hmm. So very lucky. Snowboarding, early snowboarding, very beginning of the 80s, and had met one of the founders of snowboarding named Tom Sims, and, snowboarding with him. So where I'm at today is, I still do these things. I still, not so much the skateboarding and surfing just because of back and neck issues, but I snowboard a lot, play music, I do art. I am in this collective called the California Locos. I like stories, and I just want to be free to do what I want. That's the way I've always been. I didn't want to make my living in art. I wanted to make art if and when I wanted to. If I wanted to shift to music. So money was never a part of it for me. I just had to be free and independent. And I developed different skills, and that's what I use to this day. I mean, I might go work on editing a film I'm working on and go from there to band rehearsal, to go from there to, talking to my Locos guys about the next art show, to designing merch, all in a day.
Look, I spent 30 years in Florence, Italy. So that's why I was fascinated by the title of your book, which is Renaissance and Rebellion, when you talk about the California Locos.
Yeah.
And then I spent 25 years in LA. And I have to say that I'm going to say that you are, from what you just described, you are a Renaissance man because all your interests that you just described, right? And you're also so California, like you describe yourself, and that's in a really good way. I mean, like, I think that living in a place like 70s, 60s, 80s LA, mixing all these things together, I mean, it's just amazing. It's definitely made who you are today. And I love the fact that you're still passionate about it. I mean, I can tell there's passion in all you do.
Thank you. Yeah. I owe it to my city. I've done what I've done, but I have friends that are in very similar situations. And I feel to a degree we owe the city of Los Angeles this diversity and adventurism and hazards and dangers. And, some people didn't survive, like literally,
I know you said that you survived the 80s.
So I'm looking out over the city right now, and I love the place. It's crazy. It's terrible in a lot of ways and fantastic in a lot of other ways. And I owe it to inspire me,
Yeah. Let me start going into how you got started in the art, right? I mean, you have all these different passions. I share that with you. Like, I wanted to be so many different things, and I kind of, do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then, writing stories for me is a way to be everything in my head anyway. But when you concretely started to figure out that expressing yourself through art, instead of, not everything is art, even playing guitar is art, obviously, but the art in the street and mixing, the street art with all the other interests that you had. I know that you went to art institutes, and did you have a passion for inspiring other artists as well? How did you get started with saying, this is a medium, like going out there and inventing a new way to express myself What was the inspiration there? Did you have somebody you look after that inspired you, or you just had it?
I mean, it starts very young. First of all, like I say, my parents were poor, so I didn't have all the fancy toys. The advantage to that was what I did have was a box full of wooden blocks, different shape, that were all different colors. Mm-hmm. Not all different colors. There were maybe only 5 colors, red, yellow, blue, green, maybe purple. I think that was about it, 4 or 5 colors. So that's also a good thing because you have a limited choice you have to do something with. So when I was 2 years old, I remember I go into the laundry room and I dump over the box. It was a routine, almost daily routine. They fall all over the floor. And then I sit in the middle and then I stack the colors up. Both sides, both hands. Mm-hmm. I look at this thing and I admire the thing, then I destroy it and I start over. And that's very important because you have to learn to destroy. You have to be able to destroy what you're creating to really become free. Otherwise you're going to be kind of trapped by your own creations. Like, I must preserve it. And so I kind of developed an approach where destroying and creating were sort of part of the same thing. So then coming forward from this, I developed a very strong sense of building things and arranging colors, which ironically, I realized not too long ago. And I said, okay, so I wasn't painting, but I was arranging colors in orders. And the funny thing is, like, this is a piece of mine. You see how there's like stacked blocks?
Right. And for people actually listening, Dave is
yeah.
On the wall, there is almost like album covers, one next to another, right?
It's sort of like blocks. Yeah. It's kind of like my painting style is still related to that experience where I'm basically assembling and stacking.
Even what you have behind it is kind of like an Andy Warhol type of different colors on the same subject, right?
Exactly. So not to get too involved there, but to come forward, I was a bit advanced at this whole concept when I entered school, at age 5. So I was ahead, you could say, of the curve. And I still have like drawings that I made when I was 5 years old, 6 years old. I remember moments like we had a project where we could use different things like wood, and my dad had already taught me how to use things like saws and stuff. So I stacked wood together and made a street cleaning truck, which was unbelievable for a 6-year-old now that I think of it. Cut out, 8 different separate pieces, glue them together, put wheels on, all this kind of stuff. I was just more experienced. Mm-hmm. And so then coming forward, drawing, I realized I had good hand-to-eye coordination. And, I remember being very young and doing the handwriting exercises, and I could do that really well. So then it went to drawing and copying, drawing things. And, so it just kept going and I never had any impediment. It was amazing. A lot of people get stuck when the teacher comes to them and says, "What is that?" And they say, "It's a pumpkin." And the teacher says, "That's not a pumpkin. That's terrible." Well, guess what? They stop right there and their drawing skills end right there. And they could be 50 years old. And if you ask them to draw a pumpkin, it's the same pumpkin. And that's a terrible thing, actually. But the point is I got lucky. I had teachers that were artists. So then I had a 3rd grade teacher who was a painter. And I remember going to his art shows as like a 9-year-old or something and looking around and you see all these people dressed up in these paintings and you're thinking, wow, Mr. Nelson did that. Amazing. It's inspirational. And then going all the way to high school, I went to a high school that had 7th through 12th grade. I had the same art teacher, very creative woman. And I owe her a lot because the first day in her class, I think I was 13 years old. The first project we did, I only have one project of hers. And at the end of this project, she came to me and she said, "Look, I can see that you're ahead of what I do. in general to the class. So I'm going to make a deal with you. As long as you're in my class, if you're drawing, painting, making things, you can do whatever you want. It was amazing. It was like, and she would help me. She was very good at what she did too. Like she could come in and help you draw, like, hey, fix this and fix that. And so from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I never did one school project. It was just, I just went from one thing after another, what I wanted to do. And that landed me into high school scholarship at Art Center College in Pasadena. Yep. For my last year of high school. Then I got a scholarship to the University of California in Santa Barbara, a subunit called the College of Creative Studies, almost full scholarship. And then 2 years into that, I realized this is crazy. I'm going to die here if I don't quit. It wasn't for me. I got a taste of the politics, and they weren't interested in like a skill-based approach. They had other things that they were thinking about, which I can appreciate now, but then, my position in that world was smashed down, you could say. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I was being made to follow the rules. Then I got into arguments with the teachers and they tried to fail me. And then finally I just said, fuck this. I'm out of here. And funny enough, I'm the only actual practicing artist from that time. Because in my opinion, I escaped from school, So I went into playing music, and I had a whole period of just music. I stopped making art for, I think, 5 years back then and just played music, So coming forward, it's really, I come from more the fine art vernacular, even though I have this kind of street skate, surf, kind of punk rock thing. I followed a more formalized approach, but also you mix in artists that were very influential for me, like Rick Griffin from the surf side, I think mainly, and then Ed Big Daddy Roth from the hot rod side. It was so I got into that whole vernacular. I mashed it all together into what I do, and so I wasn't really a street artist per se. I wasn't tagging much. I mean, I did some, but no, I don't consider myself to be like a street artist. But so I came more from the formalized side, and then the rebellion was quitting and just setting sail on my own, and then meeting more.
You were very lucky because you had that amazing mentors, teacher that said, do what you want. And then you went somewhere that said, you can't do what you want. And you're like, screw that. I'm going to do what I want. That's your rebellion that you probably carried somewhere, everywhere you went, I guess, in anything you do.
Listen, imagine this. You go to college. Are you ready? You go to college, and there's a project using papier-mâché. Like, that was third grade for me.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, papier-mâché over a balloon? Like, are we? And so and I'm not exactly the smoothest customer, okay? In other words, I come from kind of a rough background, so I'm not going to basically take a bunch of bullshit out of anybody. Mm-hmm. And so then I do something other than the papier-mâché, and the teacher gets very mad. Like, who are you to make that decision? Yep. You see what I mean? So instantly, I got problems with art school. Yep. I didn't see myself learning to make a living. I didn't even think about making a living. I didn't even know what that was, so it didn't work out, I made peace with it. I don't.
When it became a job, like that, you actually say, I can make a living out of this?
Well, for me, I never really could make a full living. That's why I got into the building side and developed a construction company that could do highly paid projects without me working there. That was my goal. So that's how I live to this day. So that's been happening for like 30 years.
So that allows you, though, to be the real artist that you said, I'm not creating art worried about, is it going to sell? Is it going to pay my bill? Which is
Right.
that freedom that ideally every artist would want to have, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a difficult path. I don't necessarily recommend it as an easy thing to do, but that's the one I have because I knew I couldn't sell out to make a living in my art. And there was a time where I had that solo art career where I got the feeling early on in my 20s. I started making furniture out of concrete and steel for fun, but I'm a painter. Like that's really what I do. So it's getting very popular. I'm making a lot of money. I'm shipping furniture around the world. I had 7 galleries representing me. And things were going okay until I started getting restless, which is what artists do, right? Mm-hmm. And you get a little bored, So I think, oh, well, this is great. I got these galleries. They love what I'm doing. They're going to take my paintings. This is going to be amazing. Well, no, that's not how it worked, I found out. Okay, so it turns out, no, we don't want to show your paintings because that will confuse the good things you have going on. And I'm like, you're talking about selling? You're talking about the money you're making. Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. Okay, good. I literally had to stop making furniture like that. And it was fine. It was like, I was complete with the statement. If you saw the body of work, you will see it was ahead of its time. It's a complete statement and game over, and I moved on and I focused on painting, of course, at that point. But the same thing with painting. I'd have a gallery show and the gallerist would call me with the good news. A woman likes this painting. And I'm okay, that's great, and then the next thing is, but she wants it in blue tonalities. And I'm like, the way I paint is it's one time only. I'm not going to go back and paint something.
Sounds like to me that, I know this is going to be a very Italian reference, but it's like when you go to a restaurant, there is a chef. I love your food, but can you make it this way? I mean, the chef is just going to give you a finger. It's going to be like, just go somewhere else, right? This is how I make it, right?
Totally.
This is not who's the cook here? Who's the artist, right?
Yeah, some people will think you're an asshole. You can do this politely. You could do it
of course.
With heart, it's like, I told the gallerist. Why
would you even ask something like that?
Simple. It's the money. They need the money.
Yeah.
They have very expensive space. They have to sell art. I get it. I'm not against the concept. All I'm saying is I was not built to do it.
Right.
So I bowed out of it.
If you look at history, right? I mean, a lot of, talking about Renaissance, and I want to touch on the book that you wrote, but
yeah,
a lot of artists, they were making money by getting commissioned some work. So they were getting paid to do something that maybe they didn't care to do, but that was paying the bill. It was some rich nobleman that would pay that, the Medici family, whomever it was.
Right.
And at the same time, it allowed them to do their job.
Right.
That is like their art. One is the art.
Yeah. And for me, I remember talking to another artist who was telling me he needed that model. He just needs a few patrons that keep him painting. And he was trying to say that that's what I should be doing. And I said, no, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to build my own patron. It's called a construction company that I don't work at. It's going to pay me without being a human that I need to owe something to. It's just a machine.
Right.
Okay? And it's going to be my patron. And that's what I have. So it's a similar model, but it's just not with all of the social implications.
And it doesn't imply that you are somehow selling your art. You're not selling it to someone else. You're doing the thing that you want to do with the art.
Yeah, do sell art.
The independence to do that.
Right.
But with the one that you sell, it's not the one commissioned to you. There's not somebody telling you, do it blue instead of red.
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I've been asked to do that. And I could never do that. Now, at the same time, I do sell, my work is very expensive and I will sell my work. but
Right.
there is no commission painting.
Right.
There's no commission painting.
Listen, can we, because I could stay and listen to you, but we decided we're going to have to break it at a certain point.
That's right.
And then we do another one because there is so much to talk about. So today we kind of talk about your background, but I want to take this next 10 minutes or so
Sure.
in talking about the actual book, which is also something that you have in the gallery going on, which is about, the Renaissance and rebellion. And
yes.
I'm curious to understand that concept. And maybe as you do that, you tell me what is this art gallery that you put together in order to represent this concept, I guess. So let's focus on that. Yeah. And then next time we do the Locos. I'm gonna
that'll be wild. I think I could put that together, but we can do that. I don't think we've done panel discussions, but never the Zoom, icons. I think
we leave the Locos for the next one. Right?
Actually, I take it back. We have done that before, but cool. The California Locos was a group that I helped assemble around 2011. Okay. And these are my friends, and they were all leaders in their own rights of what they do. They all happen to represent different, you could say, sectors of Los Angeles and art and culture ethos. But we all connected as friends. And I was doing a solo show in Beverly Hills, and I was asked to do a talk at the end of the show. I said, how about a panel? And they agreed. So I called these guys, boom, boom, boom. They all said yes. We ended up being called by other people the California Locos, which, I mean, we didn't think of that, but it eventually stuck, okay? Like it became a thing. And so we have ever since then, that's pretty much all I work on. In terms of me and the art world, that's my project. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's what I love. That's what I think is going to go the farthest. That'll be my legacy, I think. And, but we're all independent artists. It's not like we have to, there are no rules. It's just, we independently come together.
What these art show is, it's you guys showing together. It's not just you.
We show together. We show together. And we have a history together of these really elaborate kind of art shows and experiences and events that have gone all around the country, the world, stuff like this. And, we're all sort of in this kind of museum zone where we all get invited to do things in museums, galleries, stuff like that. And we come together as the California Locos with this kind of multicultural milieu, common in the sort of what they call the Los Angeles melting pot of cultures. We represent that. We were basically all raised here. Most of us are born here. So we are basically Los Angeles. We're a very honest reflection, and we come together, we mix it together, and it's very potent. Renaissance and Rebellion is the book assembled that tells that whole story from the beginning, from the 60s all the way through to the present. And it's being distributed internationally. We're in major museum bookstores, and the message seems to be growing. We just got signed for a museum show for 2027. I'll be talking to a contact in Spain tomorrow who wants to bring us to Spain. So it's kind of an international message, but it's all focused on the fact that we are Los Angeles, and that's where a lot of people have interest. A lot of people, especially out of the country, sort of their view of Los Angeles is even amplified above our own. They think it's really something, and we do too, but we get a lot of respect out of the country. In fact, Renaissance and Rebellion was published by Paolo Von Vacano, who owns Drago Publishers in Rome. So
there you go.
The foreign publisher. Yeah, it's beautiful quality, Italian quality, no compromises.
I gotta check it out.
I'll send you a book.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So when you guys get together, this is about the LA culture, which means surf, skate, street art, tattoos, street photography. I love the fact that you're a different part of LA. And this to describe in a funny way. I remember when I moved to the United States and I moved to Florida for a year and then I came to LA. When I said I was going to go to LA, people are like, "Are you crazy? LA is dangerous." At the time was like few movie that just came out. I think one with Denzel Washington. I'm like, I don't think you understand. LA is a lot of different places. LA is
They're not killing people on
right?
every street corner.
Right. There is Santa Monica. There is Hermosa Beach where I lived for 12 years, and there is other area that maybe you want to be a little bit more careful. What I love about this is if I had to think about how do I represent LA, I couldn't pick one single thing, but I will probably pick all the things that you describe, including the music, walking in my neighborhood here in the valley. I mean, I can listen to a band of mariachi, and then the next door there is a kid playing punk rock on the drum.
You got it. That's it,
right?
That's it. That's Locos right there. That's our definition of loco. It's multi-discipline, multicultural. It's mashed together. You don't know what you're going to eat. Here, that's what we love about it. That's what we are expressing. Exactly.
And why did you pick the word? I mean, I understand rebellion. I think that came pretty strong from your background and who you are. But the Renaissance, what's the meaning of that in the book?
To tell you the truth, it doesn't have a huge significance to it other than the way I compose music, which is this totally separate process, is that I might be walking. There's never a set way of doing it. I might be walking down the street and I get a groove in my head or a melody. And then what I do is I'll hum it into the phone, you know what I mean? So I don't lose it. And then from there, with my band, we'll evolve a song, right? So the point is, getting an idea for a painting is similar. I might see a word, I might see an image in my mind, and then I sketch it very roughly so I don't lose it. And so I think of these things that are fleeting. And sometimes I put word forms together that stick. And Renaissance and rebellion just hit me. And it had to do with Renaissance is the obvious thing of like a new upheaval, a new form, rebirth, right? And then rebellion is just what each one of us, we live on rebellion. We grew up on rebellion. We were born into rebellion, really, in a way. Coming up through Los Angeles, you had to rebel. We rebelled against everything. Our parents, our schools, our schooling. You rebel against everything. I don't know. It's a way of life, And then when you become an adult and you have children and, you have to do interviews and stuff like this, I mean, you become a little more refined in what you're doing. You're not just breaking things and ruining property or something. You're trying to do it in a way that is positive for the culture, to rebel in a way that opens doors and opens windows for people to look through and give them the idea of possibility, right?
Right. So is that your message with your art? Do you have an objective always that it's this rebellious view, or do you do things inspired by other mantra, let's say? I'm always driven by the concept of this has never been done. I'm going to be the one doing it. Does it have to be rebellious in that way or not all the time?
I mean, I've developed my style in painting that is contrary right off the bat to normal painting. Reverse paint on clear acrylic panels. So immediately everything's backwards, everything's reversed, everything is counterintuitive to, so immediately you could say it's a rebellion in a way.
Definitely.
But I'm not trying to be rebellious. What I did with art is I just developed a style that I'm really familiar with and comfortable with, and gives me enough latitude that I feel like I could travel without getting bored and run out of ideas. It's a way of, going back to the beginning, it's a way I tell my story, whether it's a good one or not. It's just a vehicle now, it's a language. So I'm not trying to be rebellious, and in a way I never really was. skateboarding is rebellious. It was illegal to do what we did, but we loved it too much to walk away from it. So we broke the law to do what we did, not so that we could tell people, hey, look, we're rebellious. It's just what had to be done, you know? And so I don't, I have a idea in my mind of what beauty is. And I've spent decades evolving a style that I engage in order to paint. And I see things, through those lenses. And it's not for any other reason than to do the image that pops up into my head. And the fact that it's avant-garde, okay, as is called, that kind of art, is just the way it is. It's just, I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm not trying to impress anybody. It's just, like I followed avant-garde jazz quite a bit. For some reason my ears could tolerate that, Ornette Combs and Eric Dolphy and the dissonance, of it. And they were actually far more gentle than I ever was as far as people. They just heard what they heard and played what they played. They weren't trying to impress anybody. They just heard what they heard and had to play it. And in a way, I think that's the same for me and the other Locos, is how I see it. We just do what we have to do,
Yeah, and I think that's the essence of art. And the fact that, I'm going to get a little philosophical here because that's what I like to do. But if you think about it, if you do art to sell it, it's not really art, right? Like, I remember when I started as a copywriter in advertising, the art director at the time, he told me right away, he said, you're not an artist here, you're a prostitute, because you're writing for somebody that pays for it. And I'm kind of connecting with the story that you were telling. It's like when you go home, you have to please the client here. You have to do a good job, a good copy. You got to sell the product, and you got to sell to the client.
That's right.
And then when you go home, that you're now selling that, then you can write whatever you want. That's when you get that living and selling and choosing, you're really honestly yourself. And the art that you do is free.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It's completely true.
And it's your story. To go back to storytelling, you're not telling someone else's story, you're telling your story.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Like in your case, you're literally telling somebody else's story because you're being told that you need to write about, a dog and a bear and a cat and in Los Angeles and whatever the framework.
Whatever it is.
Now there's artfulness in that. I'm not taking that away.
Yeah.
There's skill, especially in writing, I think. I respect writers maybe more than any other artist, to be honest with you. For some reason, I look at writers differently, like, how do they do that? Like, wow, so that's impressive to me. And I appreciate that. But, I've done a lot of commission artwork. I know what it's like to get together with the client. Some of my best work, I would allow commissions in furniture, not painting. Furniture, yes. And it was a very arduous process. But some of my best work came out of that. I think maybe I learned how to collaborate in doing commission work like that because, it's like you're sitting there going, like, you want what? Oh. And then, now you got to work to make this thing, right? So I don't disrespect it. I really, truly respect it. I have friends in art that do all different ways. And I don't have anything to say to denigrate anybody, but I do have to say how I do it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm free to do that. I'm free to do that. And that's like you say, that's my story. And it's like, I guess, as they say, I'm going to stick with it.
I love that. Hey, I want to end this with going back to one thing you said at the beginning. It kind of stuck with me, where when you were talking about art not being a permanent thing and you got to be able to destroy your own art. And that's a strong message. Can you tell me a little bit more? What do you achieve and why do you think that's important?
Well, I mean, if you look at the difference between playing in a band and making an art piece, okay, like you make a precious object, and that's fine. That's a painting, and you sell it and then it remains precious. And then if you're one out of 100 million, you'll be in a museum in 100 years, with people looking at that precious object. A musician, they do record. So that's a bit like a painting, right? But by and large, when you play live, you're destroying as you're creating.
Oh, I love that concept. Yep.
I mean, because you're playing something that disappears.
Yep.
It's like painting a painting that as soon as you put it down and you go to get the next paint, the paint is gone.
I love that.
It's kind of crazy.
I never thought about it, but yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we've played gigs that were just magical moments, like the sound, the audience, the things. I got images in my mind of gigs we played, phenomenal things, but they only exist in my mind. And probably all those people maybe if they were impressed, maybe they think about it sometimes, right? So it's kind of, I had to get used to that concept, and then the whole thing growing up, like, as I said, building the thing, and I have this precious thing. And then the only way to get to the new thing is I have to. But at the same time, so my thing is, I kind of have a high standard on what I consider a good painting to be for me. I have destroyed paintings that I thought were bad. There are definitely plenty of things I've done that I would never sell. But when I paint a good painting, like I consider this one to be an example of a good painting. There's you can't argue with me about this. I know when I'm there, it's like a musician knows when they play the right thing. It's very simple.
Yep.
So I'm not going to just burn this thing just to be rebellious or something. Yeah. You see what I mean? But it's an ability to kind of tolerate the idea that you may fail. This may completely suck. And, you're going to take risks. I spend a lot of money for the material. So, there's risk involved. I can't repaint what I do. It's one shot and it's over. It's not a canvas.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm processing these with the music that just fade away immediately. Even if it stays, even in the art that you do as a painter in the music, even if you record it, that belongs to that moment.
Exactly.
Because even if it is captured on a camera or captured in a recording, it was you in that moment. Don't try to repeat it again. I mean, although a musician, unfortunately, I know you have to pretend and do it again all over again and go on stage, but it's always a little bit different. It's like storytelling. It's not just about you, the one that tell the story, but there is another story, which is what other people think and how they receive that story. They may look at your painting and not see what you saw, but they saw what inspired them. So there is a certain uniqueness in that too.
Absolutely.
A lot to think about here, I guess.
Yeah. There's also the concept you reminded me of, and I know we're going to wrap it up, but I've gotten good at going through the process of making a painting. Okay. Let's say it's a good painting, in my opinion. I mean, that's all that matters. I'm the only one in my studio. When I decide it's good, it's over, no matter what people think. You know what I mean? But it's kind of like transformation happens to me immediately upon being finished. Which is I'm not a painter anymore. Now I am an observer now. And that's why if somebody did say something bad about my painting in front of me, I wouldn't be bothered because I'm done with it. It's over. It's an object from the past. It's not part of me really anymore. I'm already on to the next thing.
It's a different river right away.
Yeah, so I become an observer. So if I'm in a show and someone comes and is talking to me about this painting, they're looking at my painting and they're seeing all these things. I never see these things. These are things they think. Well, I don't correct them.
They see their story. Yeah,
They see
make their own
themselves.
story. They see themselves,
Exactly.
their feelings out, the mood. As you can wake up the day after, you look at it and you're like, yeah, I see something different now because I'm a different person. So
Yeah.
you can't
And I don't
control
like to
that.
impose my
No.
the story is the painting. I don't additionally tell a story
No,
about
whatever
the
you get
painting
out of
because then it becomes literal. You take it from a beautiful abstraction where everybody could have their say.
Yeah.
As soon as the artist says, this is what the painting is about, then everybody has to abide by the rules. And it's not the way I think it should be. It's just
Yeah.
you develop yourself as a painter, you paint your paintings. If it's good enough for you to show, then you're in the audience now, and let everybody have their own way. I have people ask me all the time, what does that mean? And I say, well, I don't know, it doesn't really mean anything specific. It was an image that I thought was the right thing to interject.
I love it.
So
you know what? We're gonna end up with this. The story
Okay.
is the painting, right? I love that. I love that. Dave, I had a really good time. I hate to stop it here because I have so
all right,
more
man.
question, but
yeah.
that's why you're gonna come back and either
We'll come back.
you or with all the locos. That would be fun.
Yeah. I think we'll have a good time. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. And of course, there'll be all the links to Dave's website. And then you can check the exhibition that I think right now they're at the Surf Museum and in a bunch of other places in Oceanside. And hopefully I'll see you in Rome as well, or in Italy, whenever we're there. I mean, I'm glad to know that you're going around internationally and represent LA. That's a really
Yeah, I think next year we may end up in Spain. So maybe Madrid. We're going to find out tomorrow. I'm going to know more about what's being presented. So thank you, Marco. I really appreciate you having me. Anytime. Yeah, I love it.
All right. Take care.
you.
And everybody subscribe. There's going to be more conversation with Dave and a bunch of other artists and storyteller. Audio Signal Podcast. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Audio Signals Podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. If you learned something new and this conversation made you think, then take a moment to rate this show and add it to your favorite podcast player. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this episode with your friends, family, and colleagues. We invite you to come back for more stories and follow Marco Ciappelli on his social media as he continues musing on stories, storytelling, and storytellers.